Alright, what's up, gaming community? It's HFP Stormtrooper back again, your average avid gamer. First, let me start off by saying this is a live stream, not an edited video. I will be doing this in one take, without added effects, cuts, or pauses, so therefore, it will not be rehearsed. First, let me start off with a disclaimer. It may be misleading because my gamer tag is HFB Stormtrooper and my YouTube channel is Stormtrooper XB1. So it may seem like I have an intimate, nostalgic relationship with the Star Wars franchise. However, I chose my gamer tag way before I piqued an interest in the story. I am not paid. I've never had a video that peaked over 10,000 views. So therefore, I am not a fanboy, and I'm not financially invested. They don't pay me to play video games, and they don't pay me to submit reviews. This is objective. I will be submitting objective facts, not ideas or opinions or what feels good to me. The motivation behind this broadcast is because I've spent time playing the game in beta version, the 10 hours on EA Access, and the 3 days early before release. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that can give you a pretty fair assessment of the game, both heavily favored or heavily critical, pinpointing all aspects of the game. However, this will not be a review of the game itself, as there are already an overabundant plethora of options already in circulation. Rather, this will be a review of the reviews themselves, and discuss the videos that lack objectivity, and I will assert a counter-argument of the whining, spoiled little brats on YouTube, social media comments, Reddit, and subreddit posts, crying about loot boxes, unfair currency mechanics, and pay-to-play aspects that may or may not be affecting the game. I believe that there's a large majority of people that are on the fence about buying the game that are nonetheless seeking a conduit to a conscious decision whether or not it's worth getting. So you are being fed a false narrative about the game design and the logic behind loot boxes. If you take loot boxes and pay-to-play tactics cooked into the game on face value alone, then yes, your initial emotional reaction would be that of resentment, or a lack of better term, anger. And just like any other informative video, if you're looking for the right information, it is possible to find an in-depth review and give you a fair assessment on the purposes behind loot boxes. However, there are non-objective opinions and emotional outbursts that are resentment for shortcuts being baked in the game. Now, I have a long history of playing EA-based shooters, from Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1, the original Battlefront, and many others. EA has a history of making the mistake of splitting its player base in half by offering season passes, and their downloadable content fracturing the player base, ultimately killing the community and limiting the game's shelf life. You've seen this happen in the original Battlefront. Once the season pass released, lobbies became impossible to fill, and it was increasingly difficult to find games. If you choose not to buy the season pass, which many did, those who did want to play the DLC maps were unable to because they split the majority of people playing in the game in half. I don't think these bozos on YouTube preaching anti-Battlefront 2 rhetoric took this into account, completely overlooking the fact that all future content would be free, which would bring you somewhere in the realm of $50 and doubling the game in size. Maps, guns, upgrades, start cards, etc. It's easy to focus on complaining about how much each individual character costs and how much time goes into gaining credits. And somehow, someone dropping ridiculous money on the game would have a huge advantage over everyone else, not taking into consideration the money from the loot boxes make up the weight that EA and the game developers would be carrying by offering to double the game in content free of charge. And if you take into account everything the game offers on release, it's well worth $60, including going above and beyond the original blockbuster release, which has more depth and an added single-player campaign. Completely reworking the star card mechanic, adding a class system, keeping the things that worked and shredding the things that didn't. And again, I will not be submitting a review of the game. However, there are some aspects of the game that need to be noted. Like, for example, the star card system. There is a huge emotional outcry among the gaming community expressing distrust. And we'll show you real quick. Those who don't know. Collection. Here's the star card system right here. Alright, so they're expressing distrust about pay-to-play aspects. They're focusing and pinpointing the numbers behind the amount of time that you would need to play to unlock every item in the game and max it to its full potential. This is a marketing strategy, people, and the logic that's hidden behind the existence of the loot box system. And it may seem like they are targeting gamers that don't have a significant amount of time to play. Now, personally, I myself have 4 children, a wife, and a full-time job. So I can, in many ways, sympathize with this point of view. However, if you want to stay objective, you need to look at it from a different perspective and ask yourself, why would a company do this? If you focus on the numbers, the playing time for unlocks creates temptation for paying for shortcuts. This is not a new thing. EA has done this in the past, but what they've never done historically is offer to virtually double the game in size with free maps, free weapons, star cards, heroes, and so on. And remember, I said keep perspective. So let me iterate that perspective. If you look at the arbitrary price of downloadable content and season pass, doubling the game would be somewhere near $50 or $60. By offering to release all future content with no additional price now frees you financially to make a decision whether or not you want to pay the $50 or $60 that you would have spent on the season pass to shortcut the game and achieve all the content that these bozos say would take an astronomical amount of time to get. All the while fixing the problem by breaking the game by splitting the player base in half upon releasing the DLC. This ensures the companies, developers, and shareholders guaranteed revenue to pay for the creation, maintenance, marketing, bug fixing, and improving the longevity of the game. With all this being said, it doesn't change the crying, people. It doesn't change the bitching and the whining going on. This has created a huge buzz around the gaming community, and their response and rhetoric is motivating them to deter people away from an all-around beautiful, polished, and unique game. And it wouldn't be the first time that public outcry has ruined a game before it even released. I don't even think I have the time nor energy to recite every case where the potential of a good game's popularity became infected because public opinion based their overwhelming information on a few misleading YouTube videos, or perpetuating a flaw that overshadows the game at its core. Very few, if any, games are perfect upon release. It takes time for developers to iron out the possible flaws, and sometimes it takes a game releasing to get a majority consensus to make a conscious decision to change the mechanics. This takes time, energy, and money for developers to do this. For a company to release content doubling the game, they need to guarantee a revenue stream and make this all possible. Common misconception, you can interpret this as greed. In any case, with plenty of examples and evidence to base this on, like Halo and the microtransactions that drive that game, many developers have based their business model on that alone. Many other games built on free-to-play models at its core release a game for $60 when content doesn't match that of its predecessors. Others create a full game that's split in half by virtually making you pay twice, by releasing the other half of the content at an additional cost, and they call it a season pass. So bottom line is this: if you take all this into account, Battlefront 2, you're getting a full $60 game on release. I'll promise that it will double in size later at no additional cost. And if you choose to drop $50 on the game, you have now broke even. And let's not forget, you still have to play the game. Everybody wants the world at their fingertips the moment they turn the game on. I keep hearing this term over and over again: pay to play, pay to win, pay to play. Well, all I see is people crying about having to play because they don't want to play. There are plenty of games that die hard simply because they failed to live up to the expectations, meet or achieve the hype built up upon launch. However, there are games that die hard simply because public opinion was swayed by very simple, seemingly uncomplicated game concepts. It is easy to sit there and pick something apart if you're just scratching the surface. And this is not something that is just indigenous to video games. Movies, music, and other forms of art are heavily scrutinized and lose momentum before they're even released. There are great games that didn't stand the test of time because the devs, the critics, had a field day before they were even launched. I've fallen in love with games that were absolutely stunning and fun to play. They got beaten with a blunt object left in a puddle of mud, forever forgotten in history, because it was misunderstood, poorly marketed, and unfairly judged. I've made videos on these such games. There's so much smoke masking the stench of steaming hot pile of bullshit that's being spread around the internet about this game. I've watched too many videos where they're picking apart all of this pay-to-play aspect, but they don't realize that it's a marketing strategy. If you're not dumb and you just play the game and you unlock the challenges, yes, it's going to take time. Why else would you play the game? You need a reason to play the game. They can't just give you. This isn't, people. The overall majority of people, they want everything. They want the most for their money, and I get that. And EA has a bad history of creating games where it just seems like cash cows. It seems like they have their hand out. But think of the time, the money, and the energy that went on to making a beautiful game. They've made beautiful games in the past that have, they haven't stood the test of time because they broke their player base in half. You're not getting this with this game. You're getting what you paid for, and if you don't want to drop the money on the extras, you don't have to. You don't have to. You get a daily crate. You get credits. If you get duplicates, it gives you crafting parts that you can craft. There's mechanics in the game that still allow you to progress without paying money. Yes, other people are going to pay to have a shortcut, but EA's done this every game they've played. I remember Battlefield 3, I remember when I first played it, it took hours upon hours upon hours to complete challenges, to unlock guns, to do every individual thing, and then 6 months down the road, they're like, oh, well, you could pay $5 and unlock everything for the support class. Oh, you could pay $10 or $12, you can unlock everything for the vehicles, which if anybody played Battlefield, they know how hard it is to unlock everything for the vehicles. It's not easy. EA has done this in the past. The only difference is they've never once released a season pass for free. They've never given you free content. I mean, they may have given you a free map here or there, but they never gave you free guns, free heroes, free upgrades, stuff like that. And that fractures the player base. Like if you go back and play Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4 and you want to play DLC maps, it's virtually impossible to get a game and that right there, when you don't have a season pass and you don't fracture the people who have and don't have DLC, now you've literally increased the longevity of the game because you will be playing the game longer because everybody has the same content. Nobody has anything different. So therefore, you can find a game. So, and that's what they're not telling you. That's, I've watched a few videos. I've spent time looking at what people are saying, and overall, what I've seen on YouTube is everybody crying about how much each individual character costs, the pay to play. Now, there are some videos that are fair. They give you a fair assessment. I have seen 50-50 videos. I have seen for and against videos. But overall, I've seen it's been a lot of outcry. I mean, if you look at some of the Reddit posts, the developers were commenting on the Reddit post, and they were the most downliked videos in history, or comments in history. So yeah, it's just funny. All right, sorry. And again, like I said, this is going to be a video on YouTube, and I'm not really concerned about views. I had to get it out because I was driving at work because I drive long distances for work, and I had this thought in the car, and I was like, it's amazing how if you just stand back and look at something and keep an objective mind, and if you're not biased and you don't have an emotional attachment to something, and that's one of the reasons why I had the disclaimer about my gamer tag, because I don't want people to think that this is just a one-sided video. It's not. It's just me looking at it and staying objective. An objective truth is something that is true whether or not you believe in it or not. Whether or not it feels good to you, it's true no matter how you look at it. It's just an objective